All right, let's dive into one of the great stage thrillers, J.B. Priestley's An Inspector Calls. Now, on the surface, it looks like a classic detective story, a real whodunit. But trust me, it's so much more than that. It's a gripping investigation into how we live, what we're guilty of, and what we owe to each other. So let's get into it. So, picture this. The year is 1912. We're in the fancy dining room of the Burling family. These people are rich, they're influential, and tonight they are on top of the world. They're celebrating their daughter Sheila's engagement to an equally wealthy guy, Gerald Croft. The whole vibe is just smug. Confident, successful, you know the type. To anyone looking in, it's a perfect night. And right in the middle of all this, we have the man of the house, Arthur Burling, giving a big speech. And this quote, this is his entire life philosophy in a nutshell. It's all about every man for himself. He actually scoffs at the idea of social responsibility, calling it nonsense for bees in a hive. And it's at this exact moment, when he's at his most self-satisfied, that everything changes. A sharp ring of the doorbell cuts right through the celebration. A man calling himself Inspector Ghoul arrives, and he brings some seriously shocking news. A young, working-class woman named Eva Smith has just died. She took her own life. And the Burlings are kind of like, okay, that's awful, but why are you here? The inspector's answer is what kicks the whole play into high gear. He says he believes that this one family, sitting in their fancy dining room, is responsible for her death. And that's the mystery, isn't it? How could these comfortable, well-off people have anything to do with the death of a total stranger? So how exactly does the inspector plan to connect this family to her death? Well, he has this theory. He says it wasn't just one thing that led to this tragedy. Instead, it was a chain of events. And he believes that every single person at that dinner table added a link to that chain, pushing Eva Smith closer and closer to the edge. And here is that chain, laid out step by awful step. It all starts with Mr. Burling firing her, just for having the guts to ask for a better wage. Then, his daughter Sheila, in a moment of petty jealousy, gets her fired from her next job. Gerald gives her a brief period of happiness, but then drops her. Then Eric, their son, in a drunken mess, gets her pregnant. And the final, desperate link? Mrs. Burling, who coldly refuses her charity when she has nowhere else to turn. It's just this devastating domino effect, where each selfish act leads directly to the next. The inspector's method here is just brilliant. He's super clever about it. He doesn't just accuse them all at once. Nope. He takes them one by one, puts them under this harsh, interrogating spotlight, and forces them to confess their part in Eva's story. And as he does, that perfect family image just completely shatters. This table is a great way to see it all at a glance. But look at the reactions. They're all over the place. Mr. Burling, he's just worried about a scandal. Sheila, on the other hand, is completely wrecked with guilt. Gerald feels bad, sure, but he also tries to paint himself as a bit of a hero. Mrs. Burling feels absolutely nothing. She's proud of what she did. And Eric, their son, is ashamed, but he's also really quick to point the finger at his own mother for that final blow. And here we have Mr. Burling, in his own words, trying to justify firing Eva. You see, to him, she wasn't a human being asking for a wage she could live on. Nope, she was just a problem, a troublemaker who was going to hut his profits. He sees absolutely no connection between sacking a girl and her ending up dead. He just cannot and will not take any blame. But then you have Sheila. And this line, this is her turning point. For her, the inspector's visit is a massive wake-up call. It's like a switch flips in her head, and she's the first one in the family to really get it, to understand the human cost of what they've done. While her dad sees workers as cheap labor, Sheila suddenly sees them as what they are, people. And then there's Mrs. Burling. Wow, her attitude is just staggering. Even after hearing the whole horrible story, she is just ice-cold, proud, and completely unmoving. She used her powerful position on a charity committee to turn away a desperate pregnant girl. Why? Because she didn't like her manner. She honestly believed she did her duty. It's a truly terrifying lack of empathy. So what this all reveals is this huge, unmissable split between the generations. You've got the kids, Sheila and Eric, who are genuinely horrified. They accept what they did, and you just know this night has changed them forever. But their parents, Arthur and Sybil, they only care about one thing, avoiding a scandal. The second they think they might get away with it, all they want is to go back to how things were.
Okay, but the inspector's visit isn't really about just shaming this one family. Priestley, the playwright, he's aiming at something much bigger. You see, the inspector isn't just there to solve a crime. He's there to deliver a message.
And that message all boils down to this big idea: social responsibility. It's the total opposite of Mr. Burling's every man for himself speech at the beginning. The inspector's point is actually pretty simple, but it's also profound. It's that our actions, even the small things we do in private, they ripple outwards. They have consequences for other people. We are all connected, and we have a duty to look out for one another. So right before he leaves, the inspector gives one of the most powerful speeches in all of theater. And he starts with this line, which is a direct hit on the Burling's selfish way of thinking. He's telling them, and he's telling us, that society isn't just a bunch of individuals bumping into each other. It's like a single body, and if one part of that body gets hurt, everybody feels it. This is it. This is the heart of the entire play. Just a few simple words that completely tear down Mr. Burling's whole worldview. It's not about just minding your own business. It's about realizing that your business is everyone else's business. It's a powerful plea for us all to have a little more compassion. And he leaves them with this absolutely terrifying prediction. Now, you have to remember, when this play first came out in 1945, the audience had just lived through 2 world wars. So these words, fire and blood and anguish, they weren't just dramatic. They were a real painful memory. Priestley is firing a warning shot, saying that if we don't learn to take care of everyone in society, war and destruction are what happens next. But just when you think the play is over, the moral has been delivered, and that's that, Priestley hits us with one of the most amazing, jaw-dropping twists ever. The inspector walks out the door, leaving the family in pieces. But hold on, we are not done yet. So Gerald comes back, and he drops a bombshell. He's been doing some digging, and he found out there is no Inspector Gould on the local police force. Mr. Burling makes a quick call to the chief, who confirms it. The guy who just systematically destroyed their lives, he wasn't real. He was a fake, an imposter. It was all some kind of elaborate hoax. And the family's reaction tells you everything you need to know. Mr. and Mrs. Burling are thrilled. They're over the moon. No real inspector means no public scandal. They think they're completely off the hook. But for Sheila and Eric, it changes nothing. Their remorse is just as deep as their parents' relief. They get it. Fake inspector or not, what they did was very, very real. And this is the brilliant question the play leaves us with. So, if there's no official punishment, no legal trouble, does that make them innocent? Does it wipe the slate clean? Mr. and Mrs. Burling sure think so. But Sheila and Eric know better. They understand that being wrong isn't about whether or not you get caught. So just as the older Burlings are laughing, celebrating their good luck, the phone rings. Mr. Burling picks it up. And you can just imagine the color draining from his face. He puts the phone down, turns to his stunned family, and says those final, horrifying words. The fake inspection is over, and the real one is just about to begin. And curtain. And that's the genius of the ending, right? It's all about to happen again, but this time for real. The Burlings basically got a dress rehearsal for their own judgment. The older generation, they failed the test spectacularly. But the kids, they seem to learn something. Priestley leaves us hanging, forcing us to ask what they'll do differently this time around. And that leaves us with the biggest question of all. What would you do?